My name is Akinmejiwa Oluyemi Walter on the assessment on curriculum, assessment, and my teaching. Let me start with curriculum. Curriculum describes in writing the most important outcomes of schooling process. Thus, the curriculum is a document in which reside the districts having collected wisdom about what is important to teach. Curriculum is based on standard. As a result, curriculum and standards are linked. Curriculum specifies how standards are met. Standards are not curriculum. Rather, standard provides a vision of the appropriate content and processes, usually for a subject such as mathematics, by outlining what students should know and be able to do across a range of grade levels. Curriculum is more specific than the standard, whereas the standard usually describes appropriate content and processes for a range of grade levels. A curriculum is a plan that focuses and guides classroom instruction and assessment. For example, if a social studies curriculum specifies a unit on World War One, I, as a teacher, need to instruct on World War One and not the Great Depression or current events. Even though those topics are valuable, having a unit of World War One in the curriculum says that learning about World War One has the most value. My students should therefore should spend time learning about World War One. If the curriculum focuses on World War One, then my classroom assessment also needs to focus on World War One. In this way, the curriculum, the curriculum embedded assessment and the instruction and aligned with each other. Assessment answer the question of how much knowledge and skills are good enough to meet the standards aligned in the units. I, as a teacher, will use assessment to determine how good is good enough. Classroom assessment is inexorably linked to the curriculum. Curriculum sequences the outcomes so they build on each other. This ensures that my students have the prerequisite skills necessary for success on the next unit or grade level. And like I said, curriculum is a plan developed for and by teacher to use in classroom by which standard, the content and the scope and the sequence of content is defined. The process of arranging standards and benchmarks as building blocks within a time frame, a unit of weeks, a semester, a school year, or a sequence of years is infrastructure in of a curriculum. The curriculum is the interplay among standards, assessments, content, and instruction. As such, it describes activities that will lead students to understand the knowledge and skills they should acquire. The grade level or subject area curriculum well standard with themes or subject areas. We have different types of curriculum. Intended curriculum, the content should be specified by the state, district, or school to be addressed in a particular course or a particular grade level. Delivered curriculum, the content actually delivered by the teacher, and the achieved curriculum, the content actually learned by the students. So curriculum describes possibly activities that will lead students to understand the things that they should know and be able to do. This is also known as the intended curriculum. Remember, a textbook is not the curriculum, only a guide in helping you to form your curriculum. Instruction illustrates how effectively teach what students should know and are able to do. This becomes the delivered curriculum. The instruction and the opportunities to learn that actually occurs in the classroom. Assessments demonstrate what students know and are able to do. This becomes the achieved curriculum. What the assessment data says that students know and are able to do. So looking at it, The content aligned to the standard, the curriculum standards, about the framework, the benchmarks, the performance objectives, the learning goals, the essential questions that I ask. And when planning for my teaching, my instructional plan should be able to incorporate the instructional strategies that I will use in preparing my learning plan, lesson plan, the scope and the sequence, the coherent learning activities, the teaching resources, the students' opportunities to learn. Differentiated instruction must be inside my lesson plan. So we're planning. What about my assessment systems? The formative, summative, the assessment plans, the common assessment, the rubric, the performance assessment, the portfolio assessment, the peer stroke self-assessments. All these align content, assessments, and instruction. They are current across grade levels. They provide opportunity for all students to learn, align the intended curriculum with implemented curriculum with achieved. Let me go to formative, the type of assessments. Assessment, as I said, is the process of gathering data. Most specifically, assessment is the way I, as a teacher, gather data about my teaching and my students. The data provide a picture of a range of activities using a different form of assessment, such as pretest, observation, and examination. Once these data are gathered, I can then evaluate my students' performance. Evaluation therefore draws one of the judgments to determine the overall value of the outcome based on the assessment data. It is in the decision-making process then I decide the way to improve and recognize weaknesses, the gap, and the deficiency. Types of assessment. We have diagnostic assessment. Diagnostic assessment can help me to identify my students' current knowledge of a subject, their skill sets and capabilities, and to clarify misconceptions before teaching taking place. That is, knowing my students' strengths and weaknesses can help me better plan what to teach and how to teach it. We have types of diagnosis. I just highlight them: pretest, the know content and abilities; self-assessments, that is identifying skills and competency; discussion board responses on content-specific prompts; interviews, that is brief, private 10 minutes interview on each student. Number two, formative assessment. Formative assessment provides feedback and information during instructional processes, while learning is taking place and when learning is occurring. Formative assessment measures student progress, but it can also assess your own progress as an instructor. For example, when implementing a new activity in my class, I, through observation and surveying my students, determine whether or not activity should be used again or modified. That is, a primary focus of formative assessment is to identify areas that may need improvement. These assessments typically are not graded and act as a gauge to students' learning progress and to determine teaching effectiveness, implementing appropriate methods and activities. A primary focus of formative assessment is to identify areas that may need improvements. Looking at it also, types of form, formative assessment: observation during in my class, or student non-verbal feedback during lecture, homework exercises as a review for exam and classroom discussion, reflection journal that are reviewed periodically during the semester, question and answer session, both formal, planned, and informal spontaneously, conferences between me as a teacher and students at various points in the term, in class activities where my students informally present their results, student feedback collected by periodically answering specific questions about instruction and their self-evaluation of performance and progress. Formative is a good practice to incorporate this type of assessment to test students' knowledge before expecting all of them to do before expecting of them to do well on an exam. Let me talk lastly about summative assessment. Summative assessment then takes place after learning has been completed and provide information and feedback that sums up the teaching and learning process. Typically, no more formal learning is taking place at this stage, other than incidental learning which might take place through the completion of projects and assessments. Rubrics, often developed around a set of standards or expectations, can be used for summative assessment. Rubric can be given to students before they begin working on particular projects, so they know what is expected of them, precisely what they have to do for each of the criteria. Rubrics can also help you to be more objective when deriving a final summative grade by the same criteria students use to complete the project. That is, rubric also can help you to be more objective when deriving a final summative grade. Yeah. Summative assessment is more product oriented and assesses the final product, whereas formative assessment focuses on process forward completing the product. Once the product is completed, no further revision can be made. If, however, my students are allowed to make revision, the assessment becomes formative when students can take advantage of opportunity to improve. We have type of summative assessment: examination, major high takes, exam, final exam, that is a truly summative assessment. Stamp papers, projects, portfolios could also be addressed during its development as a formative assessment. Performances, student evaluation of the course, instructor self-evaluation. Summarily, assessment measures if and how students are learning and if the teaching methods are effectively relaying intended messages. Anna and Detman in 2004 suggest that you should strive to develop a range of assessment strategies that match all aspects of their instructional plan. Instead of trying to differentiate between formative and summative assessment, it will be more beneficial to begin planning assessment strategies to match instructional goals and objectives at the beginning of the semester and implement them throughout the entire instructional experience. The selection of the appropriate assessment should match the course program objective necessary for accreditation requirements. So with all this that has been said, the question that said the relationship between assessment, curriculum, and teaching, and I've also compared the formative and the assessment and reflect those curriculum goals, the degrees to which the assessment serves or control my classroom teaching. Thank you.